Ever feel like your writing could use a boost? Like you've got these great ideas swirling around, but actually getting them down on paper, it's like, whew, where do I even start?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there. It's a common struggle.
It really is. But what if we took those steps, the ones writers sometimes dread, the revision, the editing, the proofreading, and what if instead of chores, they became like the magic tools,
Yeah.
the ones that take good writing and make it fantastic?
I love that, turning those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And it's something we're diving deep into today, actually. We're taking inspiration from Azusa Pacific University's Writing Center.
They've got this handout, and let me tell you, it's gold.
It is.
And don't think for a second that it's just for students. This deep dive, it's for anyone who wants to write with more confidence, more clarity, just overall better.
Completely agree. And they start right at the heart of it with revision, which so many people misunderstand.
Revision, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
I used to think it was just about catching typos, but it's so much bigger than that.
It's huge. It's about making sure your writing truly connects. And this handout, they have this concept of MAP message, audience purpose. Have you heard of that?
MAP, yes. It's like
Yeah.
that aha moment, It's like
Yeah.
before you even worry about commas or anything, you've got to know where you're going. You need that message.
Exactly. And who you're bringing along, your audience,
Yeah.
right. They're along for the ride.
They are. And what you want them to take away from it all, the purpose. Like, it just clicked for me because it's like planning a trip. You wouldn't just get in the car and start driving without a map, right?
Exactly. You've got to have a plan, a destination in mind. And that's where this reverse outlining technique comes in. It's brilliant, really.
Okay, so reverse outlining. Honestly, I hadn't tried it until I saw it in this handout. But it's like you go through your draft, paragraph by paragraph, and you just jot down the main point of each one. And suddenly it's like a roadmap of your own writing appears.
Yes. And you can see it all there. Those paragraphs that are kind of veering off course, maybe they're interesting, but are they really getting you where you need to go?
Right. Are they supporting your message? It's so easy to get lost, especially when you're really into a topic. I remember, this was a while back, I was writing about, get this, the history of coffee.
Okay, coffee, I'm listening.
Right? Fascinating stuff. But anyway, I get to the end of this draft, I'm feeling good about it. And somehow I ended up on this whole tangent about the invention of the wheel.
The wheel. With coffee. Wait, how?
I know. To this day, I don't know how it happened. But if I hadn't done that reverse outline, I never would have caught it. Talk about a detour.
That's hilarious, but such a good point. It's so easy for our brains to wander even when we think we're sticking to the plan.
Totally. So yeah, big fan of reverse outlining now.
It's a game changer. And this handout, it's got even more tools for revision. Like, have you ever tried scissors?
Scissors, as in like actually cutting up my writing.
Yep, you print it out, you get hands-on, maybe a little ruthless. It's amazing how moving paragraphs around can give you a fresh perspective.
That's wild. I'm definitely trying that one.
It's freeing. And then there's the zoom way out technique, which is more about, well, imagine you're looking at your writing from a distance.
Okay, so like a bird's eye view.
Exactly. You get a sense of the overall structure, the balance. Is it all one big chunk or does it have a good rhythm? Sometimes you need that big picture to see what's really working.
That's so true. It's like stepping back from a painting. Sometimes you're so close you miss the overall composition.
Exactly. And once you're feeling good about that big picture, the structure, the direction, that's where the editing magic really begins.
Okay, so we've mapped out our writing journey with revision. We've got our destination, our purpose. Now it's like time to fine-tune the car right, make sure
Yeah.
it's running smoothly. That's got to be where editing comes in.
You got it. Editing is all about the sound of your writing. It's about finding that rhythm, that flow that just pulls the reader in.
It's true, because you could have the most amazing ideas, but if the writing is clunky, if it's confusing, it's like trying to appreciate a symphony, but all the instruments are out of tune.
Oh, perfect analogy. And this handout, they actually emphasize this, reading your work out loud, like really listening to it.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of reading aloud.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my neighbors think I'm rehearsing for a one-person show with all the dramatic pauses and everything.
Well, hey, whatever works. But you're onto something because when you read aloud, you have to slow down. You listen to each sentence, how it flows into the next. You catch those little awkward phrases, those moments where the meaning isn't quite clear. It's amazing what our eyes just skip over.
It really is. It's like taking your writing for a test drive. You can't really tell how it handles until you get it out on the road. This handout, they also talk about sentence length, how important it is to vary it. I know I've been guilty of writing sentences that are all pretty much the same length, and it gets monotonous.
It happens, but varying those sentences, it adds a whole other dimension. It's like the difference between listening to a metronome and listening to a whole piece of music, with those highs and lows.
Yes, it's that contrast that keeps things interesting. And speaking of keeping things interesting, let's talk about clarity. Because even with good grammar, good flow, if your writing's full of jargon or it's just too complicated, you're going to lose people along the way.
Absolutely. Editing is about making your writing crystal clear no matter how complex the topic. Think about reading a textbook versus a really well-written article on the same thing.
Oh yeah, totally different experiences.
Right. One might be a chore to get through, the other one you can't put it down. And a lot of that comes down to using the right words, being precise.
It's like choosing the most direct route, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the scenic route is fun, but if you have a destination, sometimes you just need to get there.
Exactly. So you fine-tuned the language, the flow, made sure your meaning is crystal clear. Then, and only then, we move on to that glorious final stage. Proofreading. The polish, the shine, it all happens there.
So we've gone from that big picture thinking of revision, making sure our message is clear, it's well organized, and then on to the finer points of editing, really getting that language smooth, that nice flow. And now it's time for the detail work, right? The thing that separates, the good from the great proofreading.
It's amazing how one little typo can just throw off a whole piece of writing. Like, imagine a brand new car, right? And it's got this tiny scratch. Doesn't affect how it drives, but it's all you see.
Oh, it's the worst. It's like that feeling when you're about to hit send on a really important email and you spot a typo. Ugh, makes you cringe. But seriously, this handout, it's made me realize that proofreading, it's its own separate thing. It's not just a quick glance. It's like training your brain to see those mistakes that it wants to just gloss over.
It really is. And speaking of glossing over, that's actually one of the techniques they highlight in here. Glossing, have you ever tried that?
I'd heard of it, but it never really made sense until I saw it explained here.
Yeah.
So you read your work backwards, sentence by sentence.
Yep. Sounds a little strange, but it works. Because when we read normally, our brains, they like to fill in the blanks. We skip ahead, especially if we're already familiar with the content. But reading backwards, it forces you to slow down, focus on each word, every single punctuation mark, like you're looking at it under a microscope.
It's so true, because I can't tell you how many times I've read something, like a million times, and still missed a mistake. My brain just goes, nope, that's what she meant to say, even if it's not.
Our brains are tricky like that. They like to autocorrect, even when we don't want them to. But that glossing technique, it kind of outsmarts them.
I love it. Okay, so we're getting detailed here, scrutinizing every little thing. What else does this handout suggest for proofreading like a pro?
Well, they talk about the power of specific focuses. So instead of trying to catch everything at once, what if you dedicate one read-through to just comma splices, another one for spelling, another one making sure all your capitalization's consistent? Break it down.
Well, that's smart. It's like you wouldn't clean your whole house all at once, right?
Yeah.
You dust, then you vacuum, then you do the floors.
Exactly. Manageable tasks makes it less overwhelming and way more effective.
Love it. So as we rack up our deep dive here on leveling up that writing, we started with revision, that big picture, message, audience, purpose. Then we moved to editing, making it sound good, refining that language, and finally proofreading, giving it that polish, making sure it's error-free. It's like we've given our writing a total makeover.
I like it, a writing makeover. And I think the real key takeaway here is that becoming a better writer, it's a journey. It's not about reaching some kind of, perfect destination. These techniques, they're your tools. And the more you use them, the stronger you're going to get.
So true. And, even if you don't think of yourself as a writer with a capital W, these skills, they're so valuable no matter what you do, whether it's emails, social media posts, even just a grocery list, right? Clarity, organization, it just makes everything better.
Couldn't agree more. Effective communication, that's what it's all about.
It is. So next time you sit down to write anything, remember, you've got this. Embrace the power of revision, editing, and proofreading, those magic tools. You might just surprise yourself with what you can create.
And if you find yourself pacing back and forth, muttering about commas under your breath, hey, you're in good company. We've all been there.
Absolutely. It's all part of the process. A huge thanks to Azusa Pacific University's Writing Center for these fantastic tips. We'll be sure to link to their website in our show notes if you want to explore more. Until next time, everyone, happy writing.